to agreeing to have dinner with a man I'd been avoiding literally for years. His name was Andre.
This is me in the forest. See?
God.
That's what I felt like. Sitting on a dune and we just ate sand. No, we weren't trying to be funny. I started, then he started. We just ate sand and threw up. That's how desperate we were. In other words, we didn't know why we were there. We didn't know what we were looking for. The entire thing seemed completely absurd, arid, and empty. It was like a last chance or something. I, in fact, dug 6 graves, 8 feet deep. And then I felt these pieces of wood being put on me. I cannot tell you, Wally, what I was going through. And then the stretcher was lowered into the grave, and then this wood was put on me, and then my valuables were put on me in my hands, and they'd taken, a kind of sheet or canvas, and they'd stretched about this much above my head, and then they shoveled dirt into the grave. So that I really had the feeling, and that was really the last big event. I mean, that was the end. I began to realize I just didn't want to do these things anymore, I felt sort of becalmed, like that chapter in Moby Dick where the wind goes out of the set. It's a really nice director from Norway over for dinner. He's someone I've known for years and years, and he's somebody that I think I'm quite fond of. And I was sitting there just thinking that he was a pompous, defensive, conservative stuffed shirt who was only interested in the theater. He was talking and talking. His mother had been a famous Norwegian comedian. I realized he'd said, "I remember my mother," at least 400 times during the evening, and he was telling story after story about his mother, I'd heard these stories 20 times in the past. He was drinking this whole bottle of bourbon very quietly. His laugh was so horrible, I could hear his laugh. The pain in that laugh, the hollowness, what being that woman's son had done to him, so at a certain point I just had to ask him to leave nicely, I told him I had to get up early the next morning because it was so horrible. It was just as if he had died in my living room, and then I went into the bathroom and cried because I felt I'd lost a friend.
Existence today, we're only allowed to express our feelings weirdly and indirectly. If you express them directly, everybody goes crazy.
Gee, what a shame about your mother. How are you feeling? It was just as if nothing had happened. They were all making these jokes and laughing. I got quite crazy, as a matter of fact. One of these people mentioned a certain man of mine I don't like very much, and I started screeching about how he'd just been found in the Bronx River and his penis had dropped off from gonorrhea, all kinds of insane things. Later, when I got home, I realized I'd just been desperate to break through this ice.
Yep.
Everyone's sort of floating through this fog of symbols and unconscious feelings. No one says what they're really thinking about. Then people start making these jokes that are really very mixed up about themselves. They don't know what they should be doing with their lives. They're reading all these self-help books.
Oh, God, those books are just so touching because they show how desperately curious we all are to know how all the others of us are really getting on in life, even though by performing these roles all the time, we're just hiding the reality of ourselves from everybody else. We live in such a
concentration is on their goals. In their life, they just live each moment. I think that kind of comfort just separates you from reality in a very direct way.
You mean?
If you don't have that electric blanket and your apartment is cold and you need to put on another blanket or go into the closet and pile up coats on top of the blanket you have, well, then you know it's cold. And that sets up a link of things. You have compassion for what is the person next to you cold? Are there other people in an environment where something as massive as the seasons or winter or cold don't in any way affect us? We're animals after all.
Never give up my electric blanket, Andre. Because New York is cold in the winter. Our apartment is cold. It's a difficult environment.
Electric blankets and our chicken. And meanwhile, we're starving because we're so cut off from contact with reality that we're not getting any real sustenance. The trouble, Wally, with always being active and doing things is that I think it's quite possible to do all sorts of things and at the same time be completely dead inside. You're doing all these things, but are you doing them because you really feel an impulse to do them? Or are you doing them mechanically, as we were saying before? Because I really do believe that if you're just living mechanically, what kind of things did I like? What kind of people did I really want to be with, And the only way that I could think of to find out was to just cut out all the noise and stop performing all the time and just listen to what was inside. Time comes when you need to do that. Now, maybe in order to do it, you have to go to the Sahara, and maybe you can do it at home, but you need to cut out the noise. The fact that you're completely alone, and to accept that you're alone is to accept death.
You mean because somehow when you are alone, you're alone with death? Nothing's obstructing your view of it or something like that.
Right.
Myself to a taxi. I rode home through the city streets. There wasn't a street. There wasn't a building that wasn't connected to some memory in my mind. Debbie was home from work, and I told her everything about my dinner with Andre.